What if the part of you that you try hardest to deny, the hidden voice in your mind, the impulses you suppress or pretend don't exist, is actually the most honest reflection of who you really are? This isn't just a philosophical riddle. It's a brutal reality that countless thinkers have faced across centuries, that within every human being lies a shadow, a dark and powerful force made up of our basest instincts, our primal desires, and our deepest fears. Philosophy teaches us that the human mind is not a pristine temple of reason, but a battleground where light and darkness collide. Beneath the surface of civilized behavior, there dwells an undercurrent of raw emotion, irrational urges, and impulses that can lead us toward greatness or ruin. To understand these impulses is to confront the very essence of human nature, and to glimpse the forces that drive not only individuals, but entire societies. Let's start with the ancient Greeks. Plato, in his famous allegory of the chariot, describes the soul as a charioteer struggling to control two horses, one noble and rational, the other wild and unruly. This metaphor captures a fundamental truth. Our higher reasoning is constantly in conflict with more primitive parts of our nature. The horse of appetite pulls us toward immediate gratification, anger, lust, greed, while the charioteer tries to steer us toward justice, temperance, and wisdom. When the wild horse breaks free, chaos ensues. But what if the shadow is not something to be tamed or eradicated? What if, as Friedrich Nietzsche provocatively argued, these dark impulses are actually sources of power and creativity? Nietzsche shattered the comforting illusions of traditional morality by revealing that so-called evil impulses, ambition, domination, pride, are natural parts of life and survival. He urged us to embrace the chaos within, to become overmen who forge their own values and rise above herd morality. This isn't a call to lawlessness or cruelty. Rather, Nietzsche challenges us to look beyond superficial notions of good and evil and to accept the complexities of human nature. In doing so, we reclaim agency over impulses that would otherwise control us unconsciously. Psychoanalysis adds another layer to this understanding. Sigmund Freud famously divided the psyche into the id, ego, and superego. The id houses those instinctual drives, the hunger, the sexual desire, the aggression, that we often refuse to acknowledge. The ego mediates between these desires and the demands of reality, while the superego embodies internalized societal rules and moral judgments. What happens when the id's demands are ignored or repressed? They don't disappear, they fester. Freud's theory warns us that suppressed impulses manifest in neuroses, compulsions, and destructive behaviors. This is the shadow in action. Not some distant myth, but a real psychological force impacting mental health and human behavior. Carl Jung took this further by identifying the shadow archetype. To Jung, the shadow represents all the parts of ourselves that we reject, the qualities we judge as unacceptable, immoral, or shameful. But he insisted that integration of the shadow is essential to becoming whole. Denying the shadow creates fragmentation and projection, where we see our own dark traits in others, fueling conflict and misunderstanding. This knowledge offers a radical invitation. Instead of fearing or hiding your darkest impulses, learn to recognize and accept them. By doing so, you transform the shadow from a destructive force into a source of insight and strength. Think for a moment about how often human beings act out these shadows unconsciously. History's greatest horrors, wars, genocides, systemic oppression, are manifestations of collective shadows run wild. On a personal level, unchecked envy destroys friendships, hidden rage breaks families, and unacknowledged fear breeds anxiety and paralysis. The shadow is always at work, shaping the unseen currents beneath our everyday lives. But the shadow also fuels creativity, passion, and resilience. The same aggressive drive that can lead to violence can also push artists to create masterpieces or entrepreneurs to innovate fearlessly. The key lies not in eliminating the shadow, but in mastering it. So how do we begin this process of mastery? First, self-awareness is crucial. Begin by observing your thoughts and emotions without judgment. When jealousy rises, ask what insecurity lies beneath. When anger flares, explore what boundaries were crossed or what past pain is triggered. This practice is uncomfortable because it forces you to confront parts of yourself you might rather ignore. But this discomfort is the gateway to power. Second, embrace honesty. Be truthful with yourself about your motivations, desires, and fears. False narratives about who you should be only deepen the shadow's hold. Philosophers like Nietzsche celebrated brutal honesty, even if it shatters comforting illusions. Third, develop emotional resilience. Recognize that the shadow will always be present. It is a force of nature, not a flaw to fix. Building psychological armor doesn't mean becoming cold or detached. It means learning to hold the darkness inside you without being consumed by it. Fourth, harness your shadow constructively. Channel your impulses into creative or productive outlets. Use ambition and drive to fuel your goals. Transform rage into motivation for change. Let passion ignite your commitments. The shadow is a wild horse. When guided skillfully, it can carry you farther than reason alone ever could. Understanding the shadow also helps guard against manipulation. Throughout history, power structures, from political regimes to cult leaders, have exploited human shadows: fear, envy, desire for belonging. By studying your own shadow, you become less vulnerable to external forces that seek to control you by turning your impulses against you. This is why embracing philosophy's insights is not just an intellectual exercise, but a form of self-defense. It equips you with the tools to recognize and resist psychological manipulation, to navigate social complexities with clarity, and to act with integrity even when shadows rise around you. If this exploration resonates, consider liking and subscribing, not just as a formality, but as a way to deepen your journey. Share these ideas with those who seek truth beyond surface appearances. And if you've faced your own shadow and emerged stronger, leave a comment. Your story might inspire others. Ultimately, philosophy reveals that the shadow of human nature is neither enemy nor friend, but a vital aspect of existence. To deny it is to live half a life. To integrate it is to become fully human. Your darkest impulses, once understood and mastered, can become the source of your greatest strength, creativity, and freedom. So what will you do now? Will you continue living in denial? Or will you bravely step into the shadow, knowing that there, in the depths of your own nature, lies the power to shape your destiny? The choice, as always, is yours. Stay curious, stay fearless, and remember, the deepest truths often dwell in the darkest places. I'll see you in the shadows,